day that changed the course of history in Israel and across the globe. In Washington, I'm Evan Kozloff, Spectrum News.
Ahead on Spectrum News, the story of one Florida community coming together to help a local farm get back on track and beat the clock after a crippling disaster.
Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating. And so, as a Black woman in recovery, hope must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens, you will be okay.
Your small business has unlimited potential. Spectrum Business is built to connect you with that potential. With Spectrum One for Business, you get fast internet, advanced Wi-Fi, and a mobile line with award-winning multi-layered security to defend all your devices. If it's connected, it's protected. And we're committed to keeping you connected 100% of the time. Connect your business to unlimited potential for only $49.99 per month.
At Spectrum News, we're committed to strengthening the fabric of local communities through our reporting, with stories that inspire and news that matters. Streaming live on your smart TV and connected devices, plus on-demand weather forecasts. It's all there as you step outside with the Spectrum News mobile app, keeping you informed and in the know throughout your day. Spectrum News Plus, local stories connecting communities. Exclusively for Spectrum customers. Now available on your favorite devices.
Whether it's our stories, the warmth of our laugh, or our family's secret sauce, we all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/teamup.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ramel Carpenter. It's been a little over a week since Hurricane Helene made landfall as a powerful Category 4 hurricane right along the Big Bend of Florida. And as we get into Wednesday evening into Thursday, we're talking about another major hurricane making landfall. This is Hurricane Milton, already at major hurricane status, undergoing rapid intensification. And we're starting to see that eye starting to poke out in the far western Gulf of Mexico. And this system's going to continue to track to the east right around 10 miles per hour into a very favorable environment where the system is going to get even stronger than where it is right now. Likely going to see that intensity peaking at Category 4 status sometime Wednesday morning, just before it approaches landfall right along the western Gulf Coast of Florida as well. So sea surface temperatures are well above the average for early October in the middle and upper 80s, which is going to help fuel the system as it approaches landfall later in the week. So we have tropical storm watches in effect in yellow, and in orange, right where landfall is expected, we have hurricane watches also in effect. Going to see those get upgraded to warnings as we get closer to Wednesday as well. So now is the time to prepare if you live in the Sunshine State, board your homes, and perhaps make plans to evacuate if you live along the Gulf Coast of Florida. We're expecting some significant rainfall totals as a result of this system. Some areas could see well over a foot of rain, especially in the northern part of the state as the system works its way off the coast. Some spots in South Florida could easily pick up between 6 to 10 inches of rain, and we'll have to fine-tune those details as we get a better idea where the exact track is going to go as we get closer to Wednesday. But flooding is going to be a major concern regardless, and we have flash flood watches in effect across the south and central portions of Florida all the way through Thursday morning, which does include Tampa down towards Miami. And we're picking up some rain over the course of the day today with a non-tropical low, which is not going to help out our case. So flooding, obviously a concern as we head into the day on Wednesday, and flash flood safety tips: get to higher ground. You hear meteorologists say this all the time: turn around, don't drown. It takes just 6 inches of water to move a human being. We'll talk about the latest track coming up in 10 minutes.
developing this morning. Federal investigators are now trying to figure out what caused a plane to make a fiery emergency landing, terrifying passengers in Las Vegas this weekend. Spectrum News anchor Lori Chung has more.
A fiery emergency landing for passengers aboard a Frontier Airlines jet.
This definitely started off the trip a little rough.
Kevin Joseph was on flight 1326 from San Diego to Las Vegas Saturday, visiting with his family to celebrate his brother's birthday. He says it was a smooth flight until the plane caught on fire, making an emergency landing at Harry Reid International Airport.
Honestly, I think that we are going to explode because we see the fire and we didn't know why.
We're a little shooken up from the flight. Last thing we expected was to land in Vegas and be surrounded by fire vehicles. And when we touched down, it was a very hard landing, and followed by a lot of shaking in the plane.
According to FlightAware, the aircraft is an Airbus A321neo. Frontier says the plane was in the process of landing when the pilots noticed smoke and declared an emergency. Joseph says that information wasn't relayed to passengers, who could see first responders assembling on the tarmac.
Before we even landed, you could see them down on the ground there. I thought it was kind of weird. They were on the tarmac with their lights on. I figured something was wrong. I didn't think it was our plane. I don't think the crew themselves really knew what was going on either. So we just stayed put until they told us to exit the plane. I'm actually a firefighter, so when I saw them spraying the plane with water, obviously not good. There's something either hot or on fire. The fact they only put a little bit of water told me there was maybe something wrong with the brakes or the wheels or something.
There is a child that was crying. It was very hot, and we were waiting for 30 minutes, kind of.
Frontier says the passengers will be issued refunds, the experience leaving some scared to fly again.
I'll be honest, my whole family's kind of shook up. We talked about getting a van and driving home.
The National Transportation Safety Board has opened an investigation into the cause. Lori Chung, Spectrum News.
It's been roughly 1 month since a fire ripped through a farm outside of Orlando, Florida. Since then, the owners have been picking up the pieces, trying to recover in time for their annual fall festival. Spectrum's Nicole Griffin shows us the progress they've made with the support from friends, neighbors, and the community.
Things look a little different to David and Lisa Hill at Southern Hill Farms. What once was a pile of ash has now been wiped clean.
It feels like I took a shower and washed it all off.
In the early morning hours of September 9th, the Hills say they got a call that a lightning strike had set their barn ablaze, destroying about $750,000 worth of farming equipment they've collected for their property over decades.
I mean, it's truly a clean slate because we lost so much.
The fire could not have happened at a worse time for the Hills, just weeks before their 9th annual fall festival, where they say they make about 40% of their revenue.
We were sprinting, trying to get everything done, and then this happened, which put us so far behind.
However, thanks to hard work and some help from the community, they've been able to open on time. While they still have their petting zoo full of curious goats and even an emu, their carnival rides, pumpkin patch, and beloved sunflower fields, they're facing some new challenges because of the fire. Losing most of their farm equipment made them worry about keeping up with crops. However, neighbors and even local tractor dealers have lent them what they need to keep growing.
We've had a lot of friends, farming friends especially, that have stepped up and offered to help in those kind of ways, and it means a lot. Upgrading like this is not the way you want to upgrade. You'd rather do it by choice.
But it has been a blessing.
Despite the hurdles, the Hills are just happy to be open, excited to see people on their farm once again.
I was crying when I just saw everybody coming in, that first morning on Saturday. It just did our hearts good. So we're very, very thankful, very blessed.
While there's still a long journey ahead as they start to rebuild, they say if anything, the support they've received as they go full steam ahead towards getting back on the right track has showed them just how much they mean to the community.
It's hard to find silver linings and stuff like this, but that was a silver lining.
In Claremont, Nicole Griffin, Spectrum News.
Up next on Spectrum News, we take you for a behind-the-scenes look at the team powering the LA Chargers' electrifying social media presence.
I'm Josh Robin. You're watching a special report on Spectrum News. President Joe Biden and the First Lady Jill Biden are marking 1 year since the October 7th attack on Israel. Let's listen in.
Zohar harakia meirim umazhirim lenishmot hakedoshim escharei Yisrael anashim nashim v'taf shenehergu v'nitrachu shenisrafu v'nitbechu masru nafsham al kiddush Hashem berisderot kfar Aza nachal oz re'im nirim again Sufa near Yitzchak near Oz Kerem Shalom Ofakim Ein Hashlosha Moshav Yachini Nativ Ha'asara Holit U Festival Nova Ba'avor Shana She'anu Mitpalalim Le'ilu Nishmotehem Began Eden Tehemenu Chatam Lachen Baal Harachamim Yastirem Beseter Knafav La'olamim Vayitzror Bitzror Achayim Ed Nishmotehem Adonai Hu Nachlatam Ve'anuchu V'Shalom Al Mishkavotam V'nomar Amen. God, full of mercy, who dwells on high, grant fitting rest on the wings of the divine presence to the holy and pure, the brave, for the souls of the holy ones, men, women, and children who were killed on October 7th. For this we pray, for the ascent of their souls, may they rest in the Garden of Eden. May you shelter them in the shadow of your wings forever, and may their souls be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. May they rest in peace. And we say amen. We're now going to light the Yortzeit candle, the memorial candle, and then observe a moment of silence.
You just heard President Biden and the First Lady Jill Biden observe a solemn moment in memory of those killed on October 7th of last year. 1,200 people were killed in Israel of multiple nationalities and backgrounds, civilians and security forces. Came early that morning a year ago. Hamas militants, terrorists, invaded from the Gaza Strip early that day. That invasion from what the U.S. calls a terrorist group has sparked since then a major response from Israel, killing tens of thousands of people, both civilians and combatants. It has also spread subsequent to the Hamas invasion. Hezbollah, which is a group that the U.S. considers a terrorist group from in the north in southern Lebanon, launched multiple rockets, and Israel has retaliated there, displacing tens of thousands of people on both sides of the border. It has been a year of loss and of war, and frankly, it shows no sign of ending. And we did not hear the president, who has been pushing for a ceasefire for many months, speak there. Instead, just observing as the rabbi listed those who were killed, a memorial prayer, and listing where they were killed, speaking there in Hebrew and in English. I'm going to bring in now my colleague, Washington, D.C. reporter Daniel Grimes. He is live at the White House. And Daniel, obviously, a very solemn day, a very difficult day that's unleashing a lot of painful emotions, I think, for people of all different backgrounds. How are other leaders marking this day?
Yeah, I mean, Josh, I think that a lot of people would just be shocked with where we stand 1 year later. I mean, as you noted, this war has just escalated in the years since Hamas launched that October 7th attack, the deadliest day for Jews since the Holocaust. I mean, as you noted, Israel's now fighting a war on multiple fronts. They're fighting the Houthis in Yemen, they're fighting Hezbollah in Lebanon, and they're still fighting Hamas in Gaza. And so I think the Biden administration has just been continuing to push for a ceasefire, but things there remain at a stalemate, Josh.
Yeah, and on Capitol Hill, I know that Congress is largely out, but are you seeing statements at least from individuals, from representatives, and so forth?
Yeah, and I think, again, the U.S. response, whether it's the Biden administration or members of Congress, they've all just been pushing for both sides to lay down their arms, both sides to have that ceasefire. I mean, again, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, right now the world is waiting on Israel to respond to that Iranian attack that we saw last week. Remember, Iran launched about 180 missiles, ballistic missiles, toward Israel, and now the world awaits. The president has said, hey, we don't want to see you attack Iranian oil. We don't want to see you attack any of the nuclear facilities. And the Israeli officials have said nothing is off the table. And so I think that that's what we've continued to see is the president of the United States and the administration officials and members of Congress call for a ceasefire, call for a de-escalation. But we've seen just tensions escalate in the Middle East, Josh.
I mean, it's unprecedented. Earlier this year, there were missile attacks from Iran, and then they were more than doubled afterwards. We should note that Hamas and Hezbollah, groups that are considered terrorist groups by the United States, are backed by Iran. Iran is seen as kind of the octopus with different tentacles in different parts. In Yemen, with the Houthis, who've also sent missiles flying into Israel. Hamas, as I mentioned, Hezbollah, other militant groups in Iraq. So the thought is among Israelis and many Americans that there needs to be a strike at the head of the octopus, but that is very risky, very dangerous. So a lot of people are thinking about it. And Daniel, as you mentioned, there have been stops, starts and stops, and many more stops, I would say, when it comes to the ceasefire talks for months. Do we see any action on that at all now?
Yeah, and right now things are at a stalemate. You've got Hamas officials blaming Israel, Israel blaming Hamas, and the United States basically is saying it really is Hamas that's holding up that agreement. I mean, President Biden back in May laid out a 3-phase plan that would start with the release of the remaining hostages. I mean, you saw 250 hostages taken on October 7th, but Josh, we don't know how many of those are still alive today, but we know that some of them still are, so we want those remaining hostages to be released, and additionally just both sides to lay down, have a ceasefire agreement, and then of course the third phase of that is rebuilding Gaza, but neither side has agreed to any part of this. I mean, administration officials over the summer kept saying, hey, we're getting closer and closer, but alas, we remain here 1 year later with no deal, Josh.
All right, Daniel, thank you so much. A lot of complexity in this, a lot of sorrow as well for many, many people. We're going to leave you for now and check in with you later. And we will leave you with a shot of what we saw earlier, which is the memorial candle. It was lit at the White House and in memory of those who were killed a year ago, unleashing all of this devastation. Thank you so much at home for watching. I'm Josh Robin. More news right now here on Spectrum News.
Spectrum News Plus.